All right. Hey, everyone. It's Mackenzie, and this is the Branding Masterclass for Coaches. I'm so excited that I'm so excited for this. I'm so excited for this because branding is one of my favorite things. It's something that is really the foundation of your business when you are building an audience. And we know from the Two Pillars course that we have as part of the Rebel Coaches membership that the two pillars, building an audience, is one of the most important things that you can do, because without your audience, you don't have anyone to buy your stuff or to work with you. So building your audience is really important. And we're going to talk about in this masterclass how branding helps you do that. So I'm just going to pop over to the Slack channel and make sure that everything is working properly. Okay, it looks like it is. All right, we're set to go. All right, so if you have questions, I put a note in the Slack channel, but if you have questions, go ahead and put them in the Slack channel right under this video, and I'll answer everything when we're done. Okay, so I'm multitasking here. All right, share. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. We're going to go ahead and get started with the presentation. So if you tune in and you're just a little bit late and you missed some of the first part of this, you can always watch the replay. It will be available as soon as we're done here. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so this is Branding with Soul, a Rebel Coaches Club Masterclass. So I'm sure that, we all kind of know what a brand is, but let's just, talk about what is a brand and why do you need a really good one? You don't just need a brand, you actually you need a really good one. So a brand is your personality packaged. It's an ephemeral but powerful feeling people have when they have any kind of interaction with you online. So I just want to repeat that so that everyone understands. It's a powerful feeling that people have when they have any kind of interaction with you online. So they visit your website, they look at one of your social media profiles, maybe they even talk with you through DM, whatever it is, they visit your blog, whatever it is. This is a feeling that people should get when they have some sort of contact or interaction with you online, even if that contact or, quote, interaction is one-sided, meaning they just went to your website. Maybe they didn't talk to you, but they just went to your website. That's an interaction, okay? So it's important that you have good branding because branding functions a lot like a reputation. It's unspoken, but it needs to communicate something accurate about you and your business. So I'm just going to repeat that. What it's communicating must be accurate about you and your business. And bad branding can, one, attract the wrong crowd, and you don't want that because that's bad for sales. And two, it can prevent you from reaching the right crowd, which is also bad for sales if you're not reaching the right people. Now, since audience building is part of one of the two pillars, it's part of your automated sales funnel. It's the entry point to your automated sales funnel. You need to get it right for yourself. So today we're going to talk about the 6 elements of your coaching brand, okay? Your skills and talents, your why, your client, your persona, your graphic brand, and your message. So I'm going to use my first business, which was called the Wardrobe Code, as an example for this process. So you'll be able to kind of follow along and see how this looks as an example. But of course, I want you also thinking about your brand as we go through these things. Now, I will be sharing the slide deck with you afterwards so that you can do this work on your own. If you want to take notes while I'm presenting this, that's fine. Or if you just want to sit back and watch, that's okay too, because like I said, I'm going to be providing you with the slides. Okay, so let's dive in. All right, let's talk number 1, your skills and your talents. So taking an inventory of your skills and your talents is so important because these are your areas of expertise. So step 1, you want to inventory everything that you know well, can do, and are fascinated with. Inventory everything that you know well, can do, and are fascinated with. Now, this applies to your business venture, but it also applies to other areas of your life, things that make you you. This question is important because I'm identifying what makes me unique and different from my competitors, and we all have competitors. So for this example of the wardrobe code, in a group of 100 wardrobe stylists, we're all going to have different backgrounds and motivations. So example, the wardrobe code. Things that I knew well at the time. Project management, creating finished schemes for interiors. I was an interior designer. How to create a wardrobe for modern millennial women. This is something I figured out for myself. These are things that I knew well. Things that I can do. I can work with clients. I have a history of working with clients. I can create artistic wardrobes for clients, and I can shop like a ninja. Things that I'm fascinated with, history and the history of fashion, really the history of anything. Shopping, I'm fascinated with shopping. Thrifting and secondhand clothes. I love the kind of like anthropology, not the store anthropology, but the anthropology of secondhand clothes. And I'm fascinated with fashion, brands, and trends. Like, what's Gucci doing this year? Although I'm really not someone who runs out and stands in line and buys whatever Gucci is making this season. I'm just interested to know what the different brands and fashion houses are doing. This is kind of similar to this concept of the ikigai, where you take what you love, what the world needs, what you can be paid for, and what you're good at, and you find your passion, your mission, your vocation, and your profession. And all of that together is your ikigai. So this is really kind of way more than a brand, the ikigai. This is your purpose in life. But it's something that to consider. This is similar to what we're doing when we figure out, okay, who am I aside from just the vocation that I'm doing, which is the business that you have. So step 2, from that list, you want to ask yourself, what do you want to be known as an expert in for this brand? So example, this was my list for the wardrobe code. I'm picking out, this list that I made, I'm picking out the things, what do I want to be known as an expert in for this brand? So I just highlighted the things that kind of stood out to me. So schemes, like putting things together, combinations. When I was working as a wardrobe stylist, when I was styling clients, the things that people told me, and I heard this all the time, I never would have put that together. I never would have put together this combination of pieces as an outfit. And creating schemes in, my wardrobe styling business back when I was an interior designer, and now as someone who creates a lot of brands, that's something that I love doing, creating those combinations. So the second thing is how to create a wardrobe for modern millennial women. That's the thing that I want to be known as an expert for, or an expert in. I want to be known as an expert, someone who can shop like a ninja. I think that having strategic shopping skills is something that is really important about me and sets me apart. And I also want to be known for having a knowledge of fashion brands and trends, although I don't think that necessarily makes me unique. We'll talk more about that in just a sec. So knowing these specific things about myself distinguishes me from others in my space. It demonstrates unique perspective, which is what you need in your business. So we'll just take this example a little bit further. We're going to break each one of these down. Schemes, it's a standardized approach to creating style from my interiors background. Again, this is how I stand out. How to create a wardrobe for modern millennial women. We're talking about for women who are in this stage of their life, this generation, budgetary concerns, and also the stage of life. Shop like a ninja. Strategy makes things easy and repeatable. And then fashion brands and trends, like I said before, it's not really all that unique in that space, but it gives me a chance to be a critic, which I'm really good at. So I want you to be, like I said, I want you to be thinking about how this can be applied to your brand. And then I'll give you the slides in the end so that you can sit down and do the work. Okay. So step 2 is branding with a twist. How can you take all of that you just kind of divined out of your brand and position it as unique and different in the marketplace? So again, we're going back to this example. We've got the schemes, we've got creating a wardrobe for modern millennial women, we've got shopping like a ninja, we've got fashion brands and trends. And so you're going to distill that down into a single concept. So here I am positioning myself, former interior designer and project manager turned wardrobe stylist, using strategy and design savvy to help millennial women build budget-friendly wardrobes. Now, doesn't that tell you so much more about me than just wardrobe stylist. I mean, if I said wardrobe stylist, which by the way, that was one of the things that I hated introducing myself as, people always formed their own vision of what that meant. People always have some sort of their own presupposition about what words mean. And so, of course, for sake of brevity, sometimes you just have to introduce yourself as a brand coach or a healthy eating coach or a relationship coach or whatever it is that you do. But you want to understand, at least internally, how you set yourself apart from other people, how you are unique. Okay. So again, former interior designer, project manager turned wardrobe stylist, using strategy and design savvy to help millennial women build budget-friendly wardrobes. So this is how it both attracts and repels. And this is important. It attracts millennials, because I'm saying millennials. It attracts people who appreciate strategy and savvy shoppers. And then it repels, and this is important because I don't want these clients, women who are younger than millennials. I'm not interested in working with someone who's 19 or 20. Women who are older than millennials. I don't want to work with women in their 60s because they're just at a different stage of life. I'm not interested in working with overly artistic or just really, really free-spirited types. And I'm not really interested in working with people with unlimited budgets because they just have entirely different concerns in life. So this is me positioning myself as the wardrobe code as a unique offer in the market for very specific people so that they see my brand as a beacon, they're attracted to it, and the people who aren't right for it either ignore it or they're repelled by it. We want that, okay? All right, so number 2, we're gonna talk about your why. Okay. Your why is going to help contribute to the voice of your brand, which we'll need later when we talk about your messaging. Your why is really more for internal use, though you might consider using it in your marketing copy and content strategy. However, it's important to note here that we primarily use your why internally because 95% of your copy and content should be focused on your ideal client, not talking about yourself and your experiences. I think we all need an origin story. We all need to be able to demonstrate, where we've come from and what we've done and how it's changed us and how we got to where we are today. But I think that something that I see with coaches is way, way, way too much talking about their own story, their own struggles, what they've overcome. That's important stuff. It's important to know that when someone starts to dig a little bit deeper in your brand, it is not what you want to lead with in your content at all. Okay, so building a coaching business and a brand is a long game, and it's good to understand your why and actually post it somewhere conspicuous so that you can always be reminded and inspired. So step 1, we want to understand, this is your why. What's in it for you? What satisfaction do you get or will you get when this brand and business is fully realized? What are your top motivations? Now, again, this is for internal use only. So just be honest with yourself. If money is important, say so. And what else do you need to get out of this? What are your most selfish motivations and what are your most altruistic motivations? So example, the wardrobe code, I needed a project to be excited about. I also had just lost my job and I needed a way to make money. That was my why. One of my whys. Step 2, what's in it for them, meaning your clients. So what does someone get by following you on Instagram, subscribing to your list, buying your products, working directly with you, etc.? And we want to understand both tangible and intangible benefits. So here's a helpful prompt. What do you see other people in your space doing wrong or actually hurtful? Maybe not maliciously hurtful, obviously, but for example, in my space, not my space, but in my space, among other coaches who teach, marketing and branding and that kind of thing, I see people teaching a method of marketing called attraction marketing, which I actually believe is really, really hurtful to coaching businesses. It's a bad positioning. And I don't think that coaches are obviously intending to hurt coaches when they teach them attraction marketing. I just think that it's the wrong way to market. I think that the future is moving in a different direction. And attraction marketing is, like I said, I think the worst thing about it is just that it's poor positioning. So I'll give you an example with the wardrobe code. I didn't see anyone else in the space teaching women how to do it for themselves. So that was the tangible benefit that people got from following me, from buying my products, from working with me. They got to learn how to do this for themselves. And the second thing was, Fashion personalities are usually really uptight, and I wanted to bring some inclusion to my audience. That's the intangible benefit, was just a general sense of acceptance by following my brand. So step three, after we figure out what's in it for you, what's in it for them, we want to understand what's the outcome that you want. Now, this is a very abstract question. It's meant to be vague and open-ended. So when you think about building this business and this brand, what's the outcome that you want? What's the first thing that comes to mind? Whatever's on the tip of your tongue, whatever is the thing that's in the forefront of your mind, don't overanalyze it. Just blurt it out or write it down. I want to actually give you guys just a half a sec before we advance to the next slide. I'll give you an example of, again, the wardrobe code and what was going on with me. But I want whatever it is, the outcome that you want, I want you to just say it or just write it down. I don't want to give you too much prompting here. What's the outcome that you want from this venture? Okay. So just as an example, I wanted to see myself as a thought leader in the space. I was still in a corporate job and I dreamed of having fame and influence like Oprah. Who doesn't love Oprah, right? Okay. All right, moving on. The third thing that we're going to talk about, the third element of branding, is your client. This might be the most important. All of these are very important, but this is an assignment that you're going to have to sit down. This is actually in the 2 pillars. So in this section, we're going to cover all the questions from the Ideal Client Marketing Bible in the 2 pillars course. Okay. So step 1, what is the big outcome you help your clients achieve? In the wardrobe code, the big outcome was a functional wardrobe full of things they love to wear, also known as a closet full of yes. Okay, step 2, what are 3 highly desirable things? Whoops, that's supposed to say your client. What are 3 highly desirable things your client wants? In addition to this big outcome, one thing that they want, there are probably 3 other things that they want. Okay, so for example, in the wardrobe code, my clients, they wanted my ninja shopping skills. They wanted to be able to shop efficiently, basically. The second thing was they wanted to know how to build a wardrobe on a budget, getting maximum use out of all of their pieces, and they wanted a neatly organized closet. So what are the 3 highly desirable things your client wants? Okay. Step 3, what are the 3 biggest problems or pain points they face? This is so important, okay? So for the wardrobe code, the first problem was overwhelm. They just weren't sure where to shop from, what to buy. Number 2, they were on a budget, so they think that they're limited in selection. And 3, their body's different. This is millennial women. These are women typically about in their 30s. It's different than it used to be in their 20s, and they're learning to dress like an adult. Think about it. Your life in your 20s is so different than your life in your 30s. And in fact, you're kind of becoming a different person when you cross that threshold from 20s to 30s. So you're learning how to dress for the adult world. So I want you to think, and again, just follow along now, answer this on your own time afterwards. But what are the 3 biggest problems or pain points that your ideal clients face? Okay. Step 4, who or what could be considered a common enemy that you share with your ideal client? So Russell Brunson, he's the founder of ClickFunnels. He's the author of 2 books that I refer to on almost a daily basis, Expert Secrets and .com Secrets. He says that people will do anything for leaders who confirm their suspicions about something or someone. So who or what is your audience already suspicious of? You know what it's like to have a suspicion about something. I won't go into details, but right now we're having a very politically tumultuous time in the United States. And so I'm sure that just by referencing that, you can draw on your own suspicions of people in the public eye. You have suspicions about people. And so if someone can confirm that suspicion and you can say, I knew it, then they're going to gain a lot of your loyalty. Okay. So in the wardrobe code, the common enemy that I found was out of touch fashion media. For example, Who What Wear, Vogue magazine, that kind of thing. We as women, we're told that this is the standard. This is the thought leader standard on fashion, but it's just out of touch. And if I can validate that suspicion that my audience has that Who What Wear is out of touch, then they're going to be like, I knew it. Okay. Step 4, what are their limiting beliefs about 1, your signature system, how you get things done, 2, their own ability to get results using your system, and 3, external forces. Okay. So your clients, the reason why they don't have the solution that they want, the solution, or they don't have the outcome that they want, which is what your solution gets them, is because they have limiting beliefs about it. They don't think that it's attainable for some reason. So we'll just use the wardrobe code as an example. First, their first limiting belief about my signature system was that it should be easier than this. And so I have to tell them through content, which we'll talk about later. I have to tell them through copy and content that I understand that you think that it should be easier than this to have a closet full of yes, but there are actually steps that you need to take. There's a system that you need to implement. And then once you do that, then it can be way easier, I promise. So the second limiting belief that they have, which is about their own ability to get results, is I'm not even sure that having a functional wardrobe is possible without a team like Kim Kardashian's. So if I don't have a team of people working to make me beautiful and look good, I'm not even really sure that it's possible. And therefore, why even try? And so I need to overcome that limiting belief with my audience. I need to show them how you can absolutely have a functional wardrobe. It's totally possible. And then so this third limiting belief is that there are some sort of external forces that are keeping them from having the thing that they want. And so their limiting belief here is the fashion industry, and a lot of you could probably relate to this, the fashion industry is out to get me with poor quality and inconsistent sizing. And so, yes, I'm going to acknowledge as I'm helping them overcome this limiting belief that, yes, sometimes quality can be hit or miss. Yes, inconsistent sizing is a thing, most definitely. But you can still have a functional wardrobe by knowing which brands suit you best. So that's how I'm going to help them get over that limiting belief. All right, step 5. What is their most painful failure? It could be just a single event, or it could be a recurring pattern, but it must be significant and you must know what it is, because Russell Brunson also says that, people will do anything for leaders who validate their mistakes, who say that isn't your fault. Of course, anybody would make that mistake. You're not a failure. Okay. So the big failure that my clients had from the wardrobe code was basically being an adult woman who looks like an overgrown teenager, maybe catching their reflection in a window and realizing they don't look that great, or even being next to another woman who just kind of like outstyled them. Basically, they don't look like how they intended to look at the age that they are now. So you want to go through, you want to answer all of these questions. This is in the 2 Pillars course. It's under Client Bible, and it's in the first section. And so you want to answer all these questions about your ideal client, because it's going to help you reach them with copy and content. And we're going to go into that a little bit more in this masterclass. Okay. So you need answers to all these questions so that you can write both marketing copy for your website and funnels, and also for your content. Okay. But you also need this information for the branding of your business overall. So for example, if I'm building this business for a woman I know feels a little bit insecure about the way she looks, I need to make sure that my brand is accessible as possible. You guys remember when I referenced who, what, where, and even maybe like Vogue magazine online, which I don't know if I don't think I've been to Vogue magazine online. But any sort of fashion sources online, I need to go and take a look at them and see how accessible, like how emotionally accessible do these brands seem? And if my ideal client is feeling some sort of insecurity, my brand needs to be accessible and welcoming. We're validating her fears. We're validating her mistakes. We're validating all the things that she feels and saying, please, come to mama. Here, let me give you a hug. Let me welcome you into my tribe. And now you're one of us. That's what you want your brand to do. But you have to know where your ideal client is at emotionally right now. And that's what all of those questions help you answer. Okay. All right. The fourth element of your brand is your persona. So as a coach or infopreneur, you may sell services or products, but the most valuable product you sell is yourself. Okay, it's all about you. If you're not packaging yourself as a product, you're missing out on a huge advantage to build your business. The training in this masterclass is designed to help you package yourself. But in this section, we're going to talk specifically about your unique persona. The tough part about this is that it's difficult to see ourselves how others see us. Okay, so we're just going to ask. So step 1, we need to know how the world already sees you. I want you to post this question on your social media profile of choice, whether you're more active on Instagram or Facebook or I don't know, Twitter, or you could even just ask some people in your life. You want to say, hey, I'm doing a branding exercise for my business and I need your help. Tell me, when you think of me, what are the top 3 words that come to mind? So I did this and I got straightforward, honest, real, authentic, direct, spunky, dynamic, fierce, stylish, unapologetic, strong, persistent, driven, confident, go-getter, ambitious, smart. I think I might have said that. Savvy, sharp, intelligent, expert, teacher, leader, kind, down to earth, generous, approachable, powerful, and empowering. I feel like I see a theme there. Obviously, it's very complimentary, and I love hearing nice things about myself, but I see a common thread there, and it's good for me to know that because, number one, a lot of this validates things that I want to be, that I want to project. And 2, like I said, it's quite complimentary. So there's a definite pattern, and there will be 2 when you ask your people. So we're looking for lifelong patterns and natural tendencies because that is how we get authenticity with your brand. Okay. Another thing that you should do to discover your inherent persona is take the Fascination Advantage quiz. Just Google it. It's by Sally Hogshead. This is one of my favorite tests. So it's similar to the Myers-Briggs test in that it's a personality test. But unlike Myers-Briggs, which tells you how you see the world, this test tells you how the world sees you. It's fascinating, and incredibly spot on. So my archetype, there's like 35 different archetypes. My archetype is the rock star, which I feel like lines up with these adjectives that friends gave me when I asked them to describe me. Now, one word that's not on here that I would totally use to describe myself that lines up with rock star is diva. I don't think that any of my friends wanted to say that I'm a diva, or maybe just not all of them know me well enough to know that I'm a little bit of a diva. But I know that I am. I know that I totally am. And a good friend of mine who is also a little bit of a diva, we joke all the time that we're both divas. And so the whole point of this exercise is that you really want to understand who you are naturally, because it's going to be the easiest thing for you to do when you're creating your brand. You want to go with what comes naturally to you. Okay. So ask your people, what are 3 words? And then take this Fascination Advantage quiz. Just Google it. It's free. Okay. Okay, so understanding who you really are can be profoundly liberating and validating. So for example, I'm naturally outspoken, in case you didn't notice, but I just didn't grow up in an environment which appreciated this about me. It was validating to take a personality test, which framed this trait in a positive light, and also to hear feedback from friends who liked these things about me. In other words, it gave me the permission I needed to just be myself, okay? So step 2, now that we want to understand like what our inherent tendencies are, now we want to ask ourselves, what do you want to be known for? You have the power to engineer your brand. So take a moment to get in front of the message and consider what you want other people to think of when they hear or see your name. So for example, with the wardrobe code, I wanted to be known for things like inclusivity in fashion, taking risks, and matching your outside with your inside. So those were the things that I talked about. I got in front of the message. Step 3, what can you do to create a consistent visual appearance? Okay, this is with yourself, with your person. So Marie Forleo, I'm sure we all know who she is. She's got this big brown hair. She's she's from New Jersey. I'm assuming maybe she's a little bit Italian. Who knows? But she's got this big bouncy brown hair, and for someone like me who's always wanted big brown hair, it's something that I'm totally envious of. So and I've met her in person, and she's just huge hair. So Jenna Kutcher, every time I see her, she has this giant smile, like she's laughing, giant smile, and she sports dark roots, which I love. So I'm not saying dark roots like no side eye intended whatsoever. I love dark roots. And then Julie Solomon, she's got the Influencer podcast. Her brand, her physical person brand, is extremely polished. So think about how you want to present. Think about what's most natural for you. So in the wardrobe code, for about 2 years, I wore a top knot bun all the time, and people would always remark about how they loved the bun or how they could pick me out in a group photo or a video by finding the bun. And then recently I've started wearing red lipstick because I just turned 40 last week, and I am way too lazy to do all of the eye makeup with the shadow, the 3 layers of shadow and the eyeliner and all of that nonsense. So I just stripped it down to foundation. I do my eyebrows. I put on mascara, some blush, and I still looked a little bit kind of pale. So I thought, you know what? I'm just going to play this up with red lipstick. Okay. So think about what you can do. What about your visual appearance? Could you or would you want to keep consistent every time you do a video or publish a selfie? It's really, really effective. Someone might not necessarily say, like they said with my bun, you've always got the bun, but they'll notice. And it's something that it creates familiarity, which is helpful for your brand. Okay. All right. So 5, we've got 2 more elements. 5, we're going to talk about your graphic brand. So a graphic brand is usually what people think of when they think of branding, right? It's your colors, your fonts, photos of you, and the combination of everything together. Now, up to this point, we've talked a lot about the personality of your brand. And now what we're going to do is talk about how to translate all of that into visual aesthetics. So step 1, we're going to start with color. Now, color theory is a complex subject. I know I studied it as part of my bachelor's program for interior design, and we can't cover everything, but I will give you the basics. So hue is probably what you know as color. Okay, this is red. And saturation is how vibrant a hue is. Over on the left, we've got pure red, and then as you can see, it gets less and less vibrant as we go to the right, but it's still the same hue. The more saturated the hue, the bolder the color will be perceived. So think about your brand. If your brand was on a spectrum of, bold to, I don't know, not bold, then you want to ask yourself, how bold do I want my brand to be perceived? And that's going to determine how saturated the colors are going to be that you use. So, as you probably know, different colors communicate different moods. So this is just literally just grazing the surface, but red and pink is bold and energizing. A lighter pink is youthful and playful. Oranges are typically modern, yellow, uplifting. These light greens and blues are calming. The more medium greens and blues are fresh. Blues and turquoises are healing. Purple and navy blue, sorry. Purple and navy blue are royal and elegant. Black is classy and classic, and white is pure. And again, this is just grazing the surface. Color theory could be an entire class in itself. But most branding color schemes aren't monochromatic, meaning one color. So the combination of colors is really important as well. How you combine something that's, I don't know, bold and energizing with uplifting, maybe. Bottom line, your color scheme should communicate a feeling. Okay, if you're new at creating color schemes for your brand, I recommend using an online color scheme generator. But a good guideline is to stick with a color scheme that has no more than 3 to 4 main colors. Okay, so if you go to, this is coolers.com, and browse through the schemes, first just ask yourself how each of the schemes makes you feel. So we're going to take a look at a few, 9, I believe, and just kind of see how they make us feel. I'm going to tell you how they make me feel, but I want you to be asking yourself as you're watching this, how does that color scheme make me feel? So this top one, it's all pinks and peaches. It makes me feel kind of feminine and serene. This middle one, it's got some blues, and it's cool and modern. And this one below, it's kind of youthful and quirky. Like it's not quite Eastery, but it's got pinks and purple and green and blue, and then, kind of like a dark brownish mauve. So it's kind of youthful and quirky. The one at the top is really sober and dull. It's just a bunch of grays and tans. The one in the middle is hip and fun. It's got neon colors, and it's a lot of fun. The one at the bottom, it's greens and yellows. It's got a purple thrown in there. It feels really fresh to me. The one at the top, this is actually very similar to the Rebel Coach's color scheme, is just bold. I feel kind of assertive about this one in the middle. Like it's not super fun. It's got these royal colors, this royal purple on the left. It's thrown in some orange, which is kind of interesting. It's got this cerulean blue, and then I think like either black or like a dark gray. And then the one on the bottom is kind of intellectual. Like it's just kind of, it's not dull, but it's monochromatic, and I would imagine that someone who uses this color scheme probably has a really kind of conservative brand. So basically, you just choose a color scheme and you adjust it to your taste. Okay. So step two, we're going to choose fonts. Now, much like color, fonts communicate mood and personality. I'm just going to take a quick sip of water. All right. So this font, which is different than this font is called Railway. Now notice that it's a sans serif, which means you don't have like the little things around the edges of each of the letters. So it's a sans serif, but it has this really interesting W. Overall, it's understated, but it definitely has a distinct personality. Now this font is called Candle. I don't know. Notice how different it feels from Railway. See, do you notice a difference, like an emotional feeling? I'm sure you do. Okay, so this font is called Comic Sans, notoriously, bashed by branding types. Notice how you feel when you see this font, like it's kind of less than sophisticated. Although I did hear once that this font is actually really good for people who have dyslexia. Fun fact. This font is called Play for Display SC. So notice how sophisticated this font feels, like totally different, right? Totally different between these two. This one feels really rigid, really sophisticated. Yeah, rigid. I don't know if I necessarily mean that in a bad way. So you really have to understand what you want your brand to communicate. So your brand, this is Montserrat, by the way, this font that I'm using in my brand and all throughout this presentation. Your brand has a personality, and we're using fonts to communicate it. Using a combination of fonts, we'd layer different moods. Okay, so here's a basic recipe for font combinations: one sans serif and one serif. And then optional, you can add one script or handwriting font. So the fonts should pair well together, allowing one font to bring lots of personality and the other font to support it. In my opinion, by the way, that first font that I showed you, Railway, is one of the most difficult fonts to pair with anything else. I really think I've tried pairing it with serif fonts. I think the only thing to pair it with is kind of like Droid Sans. I'll show you in just a minute. Okay, so here are some examples. So starting on the left, we've got a font called Arbo. This is a serif font. So this is what we would use for like headlines on your website. So we can then use something like Lotto, which is a sans serif, as body text. So you can see there's a distinct difference between those two. Below it, Joseph and Sans. This could be a really great headline font. This is a sans serif, but you can see there's personality in it. Everything is kind of like tilted. The E's are like tilted at an angle, okay? And I'm not saying none of the other letters are tilted at an angle, but I'm getting kind of like this jaunty tilt from the whole thing. Now, for body text, we could use this font called Cardo, which is very similar to like, Times New Roman. But it's a great font for body text, and it really communicates something that's kind of like classic. But then you've got this Joseph and Sans, which is obviously a lot more modern. Below it, we can use Anton in all caps as a headline, which is obviously quite bold. And then Montserrat as body text. Now, over on the right, we've got two font schemes that have handwriting accent fonts. So we've got Oswald, which is one of my favorite fonts for headline. We can use Caveat just as accent text. So if we're creating graphics and we want kind of like, I don't know, like a casual way of communicating an idea with people who are viewing either our website or any sort of like marketing graphics, we can use Caveat, and it literally looks like a handwritten note. Now, for the body text of, everything that's on your website, you can use Droid Sans and really just let Oswald take over, and even Caveat. Droid Sans is just one of those fonts that when you need a font to blend into the background, that's what it does. Now, bottom right, we've got probably the fussiest combination here. We've got Bodoni in all caps. Bodoni is like a mid-century classic font, and I've got it in all caps. In fact, I probably would have actually put that in italics. You know what? Here. Ha. All right. Even better. All right. Bodoni in all caps and italics. And then we've got this really, like I said, kind of fussy font, Parisian in as accent text. And then again, we want the body text to really just kind of like blend into the background, but we still want a really, for this particular brand, we still want a kind of an air of like luxury and sophistication. So I'd go with Proxima Nova. Even though it's a sans serif, it still does pretty good at supporting the real fussiness of Bodoni and Parisian together. All right, so just basic like how you combine fonts. You can try things for yourself. If you don't want to, you can either use any of my combinations here, or if you just go to Pinterest and search font combinations, you have plenty of ideas. The same guidelines go for choosing fonts as choosing colors. So each font communicates a mood. Make sure that your font choices are consistent with the mood you want to communicate with your brand. So all of these have like a mood, you know, we talked about that. Okay, so step 3, photography. Fact, you need a set of branded photos for your business. You need a set of photos, at least 5, 3 to 5, that look consistent in some way. They were all photographed at the same time. Maybe you're wearing the same thing, maybe not. Maybe you're wearing different things, but in the same setting. Whatever it is, it needs to be an obvious, we did this all at one time type of thing, okay? These photos do not always need to be professionally produced, but it doesn't hurt, okay? So if you have the budget to work with a photographer that you like and you trust, great, go for it. All right, so controversial opinion alert. Photographers are not always easy personalities to work with, and sometimes they don't produce the results that you expect. And so this is not a knock against photographers. Photographers, much like designers, much like wardrobe stylists, they all have their own artistic vision, okay? And some people, some photographers, some designers, some stylists are really good at working with someone to get onto the same page as a team about what that vision needs to look like. And some aren't. So whenever you work with a photographer, you have to make sure that, one, they're really good at communicating, because really it's their job to make sure that at the end of the day, the photos that you get are what you want. So you want to make sure that you have good communication with your photographer. But the truth is that they're not always easy personalities to work with, and sometimes you don't get what you expect. Okay, photography can be expensive. It can cost thousands of dollars, and it can take up to 2 months to get your photos back, depending on how busy your photographer is and how adept they are at editing your photos. Okay. Further, most photographers' contracts prevent you, the person who paid for the photos, from altering or editing them in any way. So if you're someone like me who just really likes to put their own spin on everything, if you get photos back from a photographer who produced them professionally, edited them, and presented them in a package, technically 9 times out of 10, 9.9 times out of 10, the contract that you signed to work with them says you cannot alter them in any way. You can't put a filter on them. You can't change the contrast. You can't lighten it up. You can't crop it. You can't do any of that. So just keep this in mind, okay? Again, if you have the budget for professional photography and you know a photographer who you trust to get you the results you want, and you're not like me where you've got to put your spin on everything, then I highly recommend professional photography, okay? On the other hand, if you don't have the budget, or if you just want to experiment yourself, I love being an art director, you can create branding photos with either your phone or a DSLR camera, a tripod, and a shutter remote, okay? DSLR cameras can be purchased secondhand off Craigslist or eBay if you can't afford a new one, or they can be rented from a local camera store. And then tripods and shutter remotes are all over Amazon, right? For a backdrop, you can shoot outdoors, or you can rent a well-styled Airbnb. You can probably find an Airbnb in your area that looks good, and they'll let you rent it for one night. And hey, listen, if they don't let you rent it for one night, you have to rent it for 2. Just stay over. Just stay over for a couple nights. Have like a mini vacay. Okay. So personally, I've done both many times. I've worked with different photographers, and I've also done this myself. The photos that I've had done professionally were better photo quality, hands down, absolutely. But the photos that I did myself better communicated the specific mood that I was after, okay? In fact, one of my favorite photo shoot results came from one I did recently by myself in a Palm Springs Airbnb. So you've probably seen these photos. So are they the best, most professional quality? Definitely not. But here's the deal. As the desired aesthetic for social photography gets more casual, you have much more room to create photos on your own. Okay. If you're going to shoot yourself, just make sure you have plenty of good soft lighting, so no harsh shadows, and use filters and editors to tighten up your photos. Now, I use Facetune to smooth my pores and the basic filter settings in iPhone. It's super easy. Okay. So take a look at what competitors in your space are doing. Note what you like and what you don't like, and then review the mood that you want to create with your photos, and then go create it either with a photographer or without. Okay. All right. So this is the last element. This is your message. Okay. So step one, you need a hook. So we've talked about all these things. I intentionally put graphic branding before this because this last step, your message, is how everything comes together in the end and what you do with everything that you have just created. Okay. So step one, you need a hook. Right. In a previous section, we asked a lot of questions about your ideal client. All right. Section 2, I think. We're going to come back to that in a minute. But before we do, let's answer this. What is the one thing you want your audience to know? The one thing. So this is your main hook, and it's what you want your audience to know for you and repeat back. Does it make sense? It's what you want your audience to know for you and repeat back to you in some way. I don't know what this means. Sorry, this is a little bit of a mess up on the sentence. But basically, you want your audience to know that you are all about this main hook idea, and you want your audience to actually repeat this back to you in some way. Now, I understand you probably want your audience to know many things, but there is something that builds an audience faster than anything, and that is clarity. Again, we want your audience to hear this one thing so many times that it then becomes part of their language, and they repeat that to people they know, and then also back to you through social media comments, emails, and then if you work together. Sharing a language with your audience is critical to establishing rapport and winning their loyalty in a crowded market. So look back at all the questions that you answered about your ideal client and ask yourself, what is the most important thing that they should know? Okay. So for example, the wardrobe code, the one thing I wanted people to know was that they could learn to style themselves by using my process. Style yourself. Spend some time crafting your hook, distilling it down into a single phrase, then repeat it like a broken freaking record. Say it over and over. People like repetition. It establishes familiarity. I use this analogy all the time. When you were a child, there was a bedtime story, whether it was a book or a story that your parents just told you from memory, that you asked to hear over and over and over and over. And if it was a book and they tried to skip a page, you were probably like, you're skipping a page, you're missing something. You knew that story by heart and you loved hearing it over and over again. It's why we watch movies over and over again that we've seen many times before. I can't tell you how many times I've seen Shawshank Redemption, Braveheart. I mean, they show these movies all the time. And we watch them because it's familiar to us. You want to create the same idea with your hook, okay? So for example, the hook was being your own stylist is easy and fun. I can show you how. All right, step 2, now it's time for you to plan your content so you can get out there in the world. So go back and grab those answers you have for all the questions we asked about your ideal client. Their problems, their limiting beliefs, their most desired outcomes, all of that stuff. Now we're going to create a content plan from that information, okay? We're taking each item and we're creating 3 categories of content for each. So we're creating, the first category is foundation content. This is content that you're going to create that you can recycle over and over and over, okay? So blog posts, podcasts, pre-recorded video, and then industry interviews. Like if you wanted to interview someone else who maybe had, I don't know, maybe a little bit more like exposure and a bigger audience than you. The reason why you need foundation content is because it can be endlessly recycled. Having social media content is important, but it expires quickly. Foundation content rarely does, okay? So the second category of content is long-form social media content. This is Instagram captions, Facebook page status updates, and live video. The third category is short-form social media content. This is copy that would go with a link for a Facebook post. It could be a Twitter post. It could be a quote graphic, an Instagram story graphic, or even an Instagram story video. Okay, so we're going to go back to the wardrobe code. We're going to use an example, the big outcome. This is one of those many questions that we asked. The big outcome. The big outcome that people who follow the wardrobe code want is a functional wardrobe full of things they love to wear, also known as a closet full of yes. Okay, so one, for foundation content, I'm going to take that idea and I'm going to create a blog post. I'm going to name it The Complete Guide to Building a Wardrobe You Love for the Modern Millennial Woman. So this is going to be an epic blog post. It's probably going to be like 2,000 words. I could even do a podcast on this if I just wanted to talk it out. Okay. So this is my first category of content. I'm taking this idea back from what we learned from the content the client Bible. I'm taking this and I'm creating one piece of foundation content that I can recycle over and over and over and over and over until the end of time. Okay. All right. So now we're going to take that same idea, a functional wardrobe full of things they love to wear, AKA a closet full of yes. And now we're going to create long form social media content. So now I'm going to create an Instagram caption from this idea. So I've heard it so many times. I hate getting dressed in the morning. I have nothing to wear and it breaks my heart. As a modern millennial woman, you have access to more choices than at any point in history. Yet you still dread going to the closet every morning, or worse, you find yourself poking through your floor-robe. Don't worry, I'm not here to judge, my dear. And so that's the beginning of this Instagram caption that I would publish with a photo. Okay. All right. The last one is short form social media content. So out of those ideas, I'm going to create a quote graphic. And I'm going to say in the quote graphic that I can publish to Facebook, Instagram, whatever. Imagine how powerful you could be if you woke up every morning to a closet full of yes. Okay, so you're going to repeat this for the 3 desirable things, the 3 biggest problems, the common enemy, the 3 limiting beliefs, all of that stuff. When you begin to extrapolate the information about your ideal client into content ideas, it may feel a little bit clumsy at first. You might be like, oh my God, how do I make this into a blog post or whatever? But you must do this because it's the only way that your audience is going to know that you are talking to them. Cycle through all the prompts and publish one piece of foundation content and accompanying social media content per week. Then do it all over again. Because by then you'll have gotten inspiration, ideas, and feedback from your audience on how to improve and refine your messaging. Okay. So building an audience takes time, but it doesn't have to take forever. Having an intentional, cohesive brand speeds up that process. So, all right, guys, this has been Branding with Soul Rebel Coaches Club Masterclass. Thank you so much all for being here. So what's next? All right, I want you to work through each of these sections. You've got to do all of this. Whether you think your brand is finely tuned or not, I really want you to go and do this. So maybe, your visual graphic brand is great, but maybe you're not quite there on the messaging, or maybe your messaging is all dialed in, but you could really use some graphic branding. I want you to go through this, and I really want you to tune up your brand, okay? Because the sooner you start, the sooner you'll start building that audience. Now, in 2018, I launched a digital product to an audience of roughly 600 people and went on to sell $30,000 of that product within 6 months. So what I'm saying here is from the time I started building that audience in earnest until I finished about $30,000 in sales from one digital product, it was 6 months. 6 months, okay? And I didn't need a huge audience. I only had a core audience of about 600 people. So this also, by the way, just doesn't include the money that I made from private coaching. But you can build an audience. It takes time. It doesn't have to take forever. But I had an extremely specific message, an extremely specific audience. So stop waiting, stop putting this off, and get out there so that you can build your audience and make money. All right, that's what we're here for. Okay, so that's the end of the program. So stop screen share. Okay, we're back. All right, now I don't see any questions in the Slack channel. I have a feeling I probably turned the fire hose on all of you. So you probably have a lot that you want to go back and review on your own. That's totally cool. If you have questions, go ahead and pop them in the Slack channel now. And if you don't, all good. You have access to me, so you can ask questions in the group. You can ask questions in our private forum. It's up to you. All right. Like I said, I don't see any questions. And I think it's because I gave you guys a ton of information. So I'm going to go ahead and end it here. Guys, go and tune up your brand. Give yourself like an afternoon to do this. It does not take forever. I promise it does not take forever, but it is so worth your time to do this, especially if you feel like you're not building your audience fast enough. You're not connecting with the individuals who will be your clients, buy your stuff. If you're not connecting with those people, then you need all of these elements together. Okay. Callie says, I love this training. Mackenzie, damn, I have a lot to do. Yeah, but it's so worth your while. And trust me, once you get all that stuff done and you have it all neatly all together, you can grow so fast. Okay, guys. All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. If you were here live, if you're watching the replay, I'll talk to and see you guys soon.